Hi there, this is Debbie Melamed. I'm the Director of Community Outreach at Beat Cancer, and I'm coming here this morning to speak to you with one of our amazing coaches, Leslie Nance. We wanted for you to get to know her and her story and what she does, because she helps a lot of people and she's done a lot of great things, and she has a really great story. So welcome, Leslie.
So much, Debbie. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, so am I. And I've been like kind of stalking you on your Facebook Live group, chats, and I've been having fun doing that and getting to know you a little better. And I want everyone else to get to know you. So
stalkers are
a little
welcome.
bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I just say stalkers are welcome. So that's so my name is Leslie Nance. I am a certified holistic cancer coach with BeatCancer.Org, and I've actually been practicing for about 3 years, and I think did my formal certification about a year and a half ago through an amazing process that you guys offer, and went on to get other certifications as well in nutrition, actually a plant-based chef. And just really working to further my education so I could help as many people as possible. I am an active cancer coach. I do actively see clients on a weekly basis, and really just helping them ignite those healing mechanisms inside of themselves. And
Right.
I will say that I started out thinking that I just wanted to help people in a very strict, like holistic manner. And I was woken in the middle of the night, and I'm a very spiritual person. So I was woken in the middle of the night with this incredible desire and felt like like something was pulling at me saying, it's great that you want to help people that want to beat cancer naturally, but what about all the people that are going through chemotherapy and radiation? Don't you think that they need you more? And I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, that just gives me chills because it was such a real thing. And so I primarily work with people who are doing more conventional types of cancer treatments, really marrying holistic practices with medical practices, which was what I did when I had cancer to give them an amazing outcome in their lives and beat cancer ultimately.
Okay, so you're helping them with maybe how to maximize treatment with what they eat and how to minimize side effects.
Absolutely.
We kind of always kind of felt like the mind is so powerful. Whatever you believe is the right path for you probably is.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of people feel like, cancer treatments are so scary, but what if we could shift that mindset, and instead of seeing cancer and cancer treatments as a as seeing it as like maybe it's a messenger of like hope and love that has come to you to teach you something about yourself, and utilizing that principle to again ignite the body's healing mechanisms, and through nutrition, through mindset, through really just making yourself what I like to call a cancer boss. That's my hashtag cancer boss. But really becoming, changing the way you talk to your family about cancer, changing the way you talk to your doctor about cancer. I mean, really, instead of cancer running the show, you are running the show. Yeah.
Right. And with that, you have to kind of understand that it wasn't completely genetic, and that you do have power in this healing journey.
Yep.
You're not a bystander, right?
No.
Right. You're the boss.
You have power to create it, and you have power to reverse it. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then as soon as your mind's on board, now you have somebody that can be a player in the game. Right.
Absolutely. When you remove fear, I call it extracting, it's like a bad tooth, right? It's something that's giving you a lot of pain and anguish, and every time you chew it like hurts, and it's just, you can't forget it. Like it's always there. That's what fear is like. And so having like a fear extraction, like pulling that out by the roots, literally, and really removing that out of the component of a cancer journey is so powerful. And that's actually something that I learned on my very own. When I became empowered was when I ditched the fear. is when I thought, you know what, this sucker is bossing me around and I just don't want it. And my doctors are bossing me around and my thought processes and the fear and everything's bossing me around and I'm the boss. And so when I changed that mindset and that direction of thinking is when I was like, you know, because they told me that if I didn't do all of the things that they wanted me to do, I married holistic and medical together. And they told me if I didn't do like, you know, the year's worth of chemotherapy and the 10 years of one drug and the 5 years of another drug, that not only would the cancer come back, it would be all over my body. And this is the doctor's words, and there would be nothing they could do about it at that point. And I was like,
well, this is the thing. They drive that fear machine.
Yep, absolutely.
And then doesn't the cortisol start flowing? And that's...
Well, I work with several oncologists across the country that send me when somebody expresses an interest in healing naturally, or, you know, wanting to use more holistic practices to feel better during their treatments and make their treatments more effective. So they send me clients all the time. I get referrals all the time from these doctors. And the most awesome part of that is that, you know, those doctors understand that there is a component there that if the person is interested in healing, that they probably will heal. And I can't remember what we were just saying, but I had a point before I got to that. What were you talking about? I'm sorry?
The cortisol and the
Oh, yes. Okay. So I had a doctor say to me that there are studies that show, and I need to get my hands on the study and I keep forgetting to ask for it, but there's studies that show that when you hear the word cancer in your name, that your immune function drops by 50%. That's
I've heard that too. It is.
That's insane. And so we're taught to fear it so much. And it's because we don't understand how powerful and how much energy and healing energy that we have inside of our bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they say it's kind of moving towards becoming a chronic disease rather than...
Definitely with the new drugs. Yeah, with the new targeted therapies that are coming out, it's really direct. I have so many people that are on targeted therapies with stage 4 cancer and are doing way better than they would have done like in chemotherapy or radiation or anything like that. They're seeing reversals in their cancer, which is fantastic. So
fantastic. Yeah, I did a podcast with Foundation Medicine.
Oh yeah.
They do some great stuff, but there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot out there now. There's technology is really promising.
Yeah.
So how did you get into all of this? What is your story?
Yeah, so in 2012, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of breast cancer. I was young. I was only 42 years old at the time.
Wow.
A very unusual cancer for someone of my age. And actually, it was the pathology was misdiagnosed 4 times. And so it showed 4 different types of breast cancer out of one tiny 1 centimeter tumor. But in every one of the genetic tests that they did, it essentially showed, I mean, different tests have different numbers. So basically they showed that I showed about a 70% reoccurrence rate. And so that, you know, so that means like big guns, like they start like pulling out the, you know, like ammunition. And they're like, we're going after this thing, you know? And I'm like, ah! And so, yeah, so they were talking like, you know, double mastectomy. There was even talk about a hysterectomy because of, you know, the nature of the cancer that they can easily go to, you know.
Are you getting mammograms? I'm just curious.
I do not. I do not.
You were not before?
No, I had not ever had one before. I actually found my own lump. And so I found my lump in a, actually, like most unfortunate situation, an intimate situation with my husband. I discovered my lump, and that whole story is on my website. So if you want to read that, I'm not going to go into that here, but yeah, so, but I found my own lump, and I was in the doctor's office like the next morning, and with my OBGYN, she's like, man, that just does not, you know, I felt cancerous tumors. That does not feel like cancer. I was like, well, that's awesome. She's like, but let's go, you know, go get a mammogram. We got a mammogram. They're like, well, we don't see anything. And I was like, well, but there's something in my boob. There's something there. And, you know, but they were going to send me home. They were like, well, we don't see anything. So, you know, we have like the best mammograms on the planet. And I'm like, well, there's something in my breast. So what do we do next? And they're like, well, I don't think your insurance is going to pay for an ultrasound. I was like, well, I don't care. I'll pay for it. And so I ended up having to pay for a lot of things, actually, because I was very aggressive about wanting to know what was going on inside of my body.
You actually felt something.
Yeah. Oh no, you could feel it. It was like a little marble in my left breast, right under.
You can find it on a mammogram. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And so finally they did an ultrasound, and I would not leave the facility until they did it that day. I was like, I'm not leaving. That's a boss right there. I was like, I'm not leaving until you do it. I was kind of a pain. So, but they did it, and they're like, oh yeah, look at that. We see something right there. And I was like, I know. And so then they did a biopsy that same day. And then 3 days later, of course, I get the news that it's cancer. And the first pathology from the biopsy said that it was just estrogen receptive, which is not very scary. As we did, like, had the tumor removed, I did a lumpectomy. And so I did a lumpectomy to have the tumor removed. That pathology came back saying that it was an aggressive form, which is triple positive. So now I had two different pathologies. I was like, well, that's not right. So I had a third one. The third one actually said that it was triple negative. And if you know anything about breast cancer, these are very different types of cancers. And then I had a fourth one done that showed that it was estrogen negative, progesterone positive, HER2 negative. So like 4 different types of cancers, but aggressive in the form that the reoccurrence rate was always very, very high from the genetic testing. So yes, so that's my story. And I spent 2 months in complete and utter hell, quite frankly. And this will make me cry, but I don't wish that on my worst enemy. I don't have any enemies, but anyway, but I don't wish that on anybody, because it is just so numbing. And so you can't even, I couldn't even function for 2 months. I could barely function.
You're trying to figure out which direction to go and who to listen to. And
yeah, and thinking I was going to die. I mean, I was like, I was diagnosed right before Christmas, and those photos of me at that Christmas were the saddest things I've ever seen. And most people, I had on this screwed on smile. And if you looked at me, you probably wouldn't notice it. But if you knew me, you would go, whoa, where did Leslie go? And I was petrified to my core. And so I spent most nights awake for about 2 months. I slept about 30 minutes a night, no joke. It was horrible.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. And one night my husband was just a total rock, and he knew I would sneak out of bed. I'd be in bed for like 10 minutes, and after he went to sleep, I would sneak out because I could not lay there. And usually I was searching like breast cancer, like websites, and reading all the horrible stories about people's, and then it kept getting scareder and scareder. And one night my iPad that I used didn't have any charge in it. And my phone was upstairs in the bedroom charging, and I didn't want to wake my husband up. And I was like, well, now what do you do? And so a friend had given me a book by Chris Carr called Crazy Sexy Diet. And Chris talks about her story in there. And the one thing she says is, and I was like, well, I guess I'll read this stupid book about stupid nutrition and all this, whatever stuff. And I pulled it out, and I was reading it, and she says in there, and I learned to become the CEO of my health. And I was like, wait a second.
That's it.
It just totally resonated with me. And so, yeah. So we went on vacation. I still had the cancer in my body. We went on vacation and in Hawaii. And I made a decision right there that I was not going to do all the different things that they wanted me to do. And I became the boss at that point. I was like, so I went to my doctor and I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm having the lump out, and I'm doing 6 weeks of radiation and nothing else. And my doctor, who was very intuitive, she was my third oncologist. I ended up firing several oncologists till I got to her. And my doctor, because they scared me to death. And I was like, you are not helping the situation. But Dr. Brown, she looked at me, she said, well, if you're not going to do what I'm recommending, what are you going to do? Right. And that was very powerful for me. And I said, what do you mean? And she's like, you're going to have to work on your nutrition. Leslie, your body created cancer. You've got to start battling this, or it's going to come back. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And so she sent me to a naturopath who began to help me. And then from there, it just exploded. And a year later, my first ultrasound, a year later, my doctor, the radiologist who I love, compared my two scans, and she was like, I want you to look at your breast tissue from last year. She's like, see this and this. And she's pointing out all these unhealthy things in my breast tissue. She's like, look at it this year. She's like, it's amazing. You look like you're 30 years old. Your breasts look so young. And I was like, yes. And so,
on the right track, right.
Yeah. I had a marker right there that told me I was doing the right thing. And so from then on, and so about 2 years after is when I started my practice and started my blog and really started feeling like I couldn't hold in the information that I knew about cancer. Like I couldn't hold in the things that I knew about healing the body. So, and that's what has brought me to this point in my life.
Wow, that's really amazing.
It's a really long story. Sorry.
I mean, it's a great story, and people need to know that there's hope with the right information, the right support. Our bodies are amazing, and we have that innate ability to heal.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to find your own personal root cause. You know, we say it's like a wake-up call, so you can use it to your advantage.
Yes. And that's what I did. I really started doing some detective work in my own life. Like, where are the loopholes? Where are the things that you can, what are the things that you can fix? And some of them were like short term, and some of them were long term. And what are the things that you can do to be different? For me, a plant-based diet became very important to a girl that would only eat 5 vegetables when I started my journey.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was.
Was that a gradual change, or did you just jump into it?
Well, I would make myself try new things. And this is why I became a plant-based chef, is because I was like, all right, you got to figure out how to make these things taste good, because they do not. And I mean, for me, they didn't. And now I eat everything except kale. I hate kale. Ugh.
Right.
And I just want to put it out there that you cannot eat kale and still be healthy.
You can, that's right.
So
I like kale. I don't know why. I'm weird, I guess.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I just can't eat it. I tried everything. Like, people send me, it's a joke. Like, I get recipes of
kale chips and kale, right? And you're like, no, I'm still not down.
I have 2
There's
kale.
Plenty of greens, right?
Yeah. I eat all kinds of greens, but not kale. But no, I had to train myself. And what I found is that a lot of times it had nothing to do with the idea that you didn't like the vegetable. It had to do with you had it prepared before that was gross. Right. It was mushy, or it didn't have any flavor, or it had a weird texture. Yeah. And it doesn't have, it doesn't have anything to do with the idea that you don't actually like the vegetable. And so when I can teach people that, because I have cancer cooking school in my program, and so when they go through cancer cooking school, it's a learning how to make vegetables and fruits and every plant essentially taste amazing. And just let me be super clear: I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I am a 90% plant-based eater, and that's what I teach people. That's the goal. The ultimate goal is to get people to that 90 percentile of plant-based eating. So,
right. And everybody's different,
Yeah.
Lentils, I don't know. They kind of inflame me. I don't know why. Although I think pressure cooking is supposed to do something to make that better. I guess maybe some people are more sensitive to lectins, or everybody's a little different. But those beautiful colors of vegetables, obviously Mother Nature knows what she's talking about, right?
Right. When you think about the biology of the human body, and that we're biological, living on a planet that has all the resources within that planet that are not human made, but are made by Mother Nature, that we have all the nutrients that we need to intake from that idea, it just makes so much sense to me. I'm like, well, duh.
Right.
So yeah, it's when we interrupt that is when we start getting sideways in our health. So
yeah, I think it's important to learn to eat what's local and what's in season and how to prepare it. So right. And you start to become one with nature instead of one with the box.
Right. I always say, if it's in a pouch, a jar, a bottle, a box, a can, a bag, any of those things are let's try to not eat those, you know. And sometimes you have to get resourceful, and you can't, you know, and there are food deserts. You know, I work with people all over the world, and especially here in America, there are big pockets of the country that are just, you know, fresh food deserts. I mean, they just don't. And the crazy thing is most of them are in the middle of the country where we grow a ton of food.
Right.
I'm like, what is up with that? But it's true. And there's these huge like pockets of food deserts, and people struggle with that. It's a real struggle. So then we think about like frozen, you know, organic vegetables, and, you know, but there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
I brought my kids up from a very young age, so that's their palate, like nothing without vegetables.
Bless their hearts.
And you cook your own food. But it is interesting because people really don't know how to cook. And I think it's our culture, because we're fast. Everything's fast. And there's just no time to nurture yourself and to learn about how to cook food. So that's great. I was looking at some of your recipes, your site's go-to kitchens.
Yes, that is the main, that's the mother site.
Okay.
Go-to kitchens, yes.
I was looking at some of your recipes, and they look absolutely, I love onion rings, and I miss that. And I saw you had a recipe for onion rings. I was like, oh.
Onion ring and a black bean burger, to me, that is like heaven. Like
I saw that, the black bean burger with the onion rings on the side.
Yeah, and a little salad. I mean, really, you're not missing a beat at that point. You don't have an opportunity to miss anything.
Right.
Ignite that creativity like that,
right.
Or you have a good resource for that information. And you touched on something, people don't know how to cook, and this happens to me all the time. You know, it's one of the qualifiers, if you will, for being a client of mine is, you know, do you cook? I mean, do you ever cook? Like, have you ever? And most people will say, well, I mean, I cook, but I don't like to cook. And I'm like, oh, well, we have to change that.
And it's not in the microwave either.
Yeah, that's right. And microwave is not an option. So, but I mean, that's why I have Cancer Cooking School in my program, because, you know, with, and what you're seeing is about 300 recipes on that website. I have about 2,000 recipes that I've personally developed as a nutritionist, as a cancer coach, that are there to fight cancer. And I will tell you, one of my favorite recipes that I give people is Dr. Silberstein in her book, the mineral broth, when they're in active treatment. I'm all about like
health cook.
I'm sorry?
Hungry for Health?
Yeah. It's like, look, there literally, there's all these books behind me. Look at all the flags. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm darn serious.
They're great recipes. I've done cooking for cancer patients too, and some of the recipes in there are absolutely delicious.
Well, the mineral broth, in my opinion, you know, people say, you know, there's no silver bullet, but the mineral broth, in my opinion, if you're doing active chemotherapy, is a must. Like, okay. you cannot skip that. You have to consume that. Like, it's like medicine, in my opinion. It's just as important as anything else that you're doing. And my clients who use the mineral broth are, they are heads and shoulders above health-wise.
That's great to know.
Doing active chemotherapy, it's amazing. And the alkaline broth too, I'm a huge fan of. But the mineral broth in particular, for people that are in active treatments, is so healing. It's fantastic. So yeah.
How did you find BeatCancer?
You know, I think a friend of mine, and Leslie, I think you say your last name,
Bumpus.
Yeah. Okay. So she and I were in a class together with Dr. Josh Axe. Integrated. No, what was it called? Nutritional. I don't know. Anyway, we did a class with Dr. Axe where he was teaching. If you want to be a health professional, you know, here's a doorway. And so, you know, he kind of opened the door a little bit for us to get you in the mindset, essentially, of like what you need, you know, what are the next things you need to do? And so kind of a step-by-step, maybe you want a blog, you need a Facebook page, you know, so it was business and health, like, married together. It was amazing. And it was, I can't remember, I think it was like 2 months long. And anyway, so that's where my journey like officially started, with wanting to help people, was in that. And he actually helped me grow my website. Like, he was actually a mentor for a little while, and, you know, helped me build my website, and his staff really helped me. And then Leslie and I were in that class together, and I saw a Facebook post where she's like, I just became a holistic cancer coach. I was like, oh, how'd you do that? Okay, I want to do that. And she's like, oh my gosh, you need to do that. And so I started doing research, and I think like I discovered it one day and I started class the next. Like, there was no, like, I didn't even think about it, because it was so obvious that that is what I was supposed to do. And it really elevated me in my practice. I use a lot of resources from that certification course to help my clients, to help me. It helped me with my own mindset about certain things. You know, things I kind of closed the door on were kind of opened back up, and it was. I think I finished the class in like a couple of months. I went pretty quickly because I was so excited. I was like, every day I set aside to finish a course, you know, and so yeah, and it was amazing. And, you know, just a tip, if you're thinking about doing this class, stop thinking, do it. It will change your relationship with cancer.
Right.
It will change the way that you think about how you help people and how you think about it personally. And it's incredibly empowering and so positive. It's amazing. And the work that I did there for learning how to actually coach people was invaluable. So
I thought that was a real strength too. I mean, Susan is a wonderful teacher, and it's a benefit of someone with 40 years of research and counseling.
Absolutely.
30,000 plus cancer patients. And she was just an incredible wealth of knowledge. And it's wonderful that course was really her baby, that she, just like you said, you wanted to share all this information that worked for you.
Yeah. And she
wanted all this information in one place where everybody could benefit from it. So
and you should know that I have a stack of notebooks that sit on my desk all the time. And one of them, hold on, it's a no joke. Oh no, that's not it. I have two right now that sit here all the time. But my this is my notebook from the course that I use to put all my notes in and everything. And it always is sitting on my desk. Like, it's never not sitting here, because I refer to it all the time. People come up and they're like, and I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that. I bet there's something I bet Susan knows something about that. And sure enough, I find it every single time. And she, you know, I always say that she is going to help me help millions of people. And her legacy will live through each and every one of us in a way that is so powerful and so life-changing. And, you know, there's a lot of celebrity type people out there right now that are trying to sell this story about beating cancer, but Susan truly knows the path.
Absolutely.
She understands.
That's wonderful words.
Yeah.
That is the greater mission, with almost 1 in 2 people getting a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime now. It's the greater mission. And so it's wonderful to find like-minded people that share her vision. And we just want to keep spreading this. The more people that become educated, the more they then help people. And together we just feel like we can really get a hold of this cancer, not feel so in fear of it, and become a boss, like you said.
Right.
And a player in our own health, and not a victim.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that a lot of things that stop people with this idea of like, become like, you know, that's what you want to do, but it's frightening to step out into that direction and get that education and pay the money and, you know, be dedicated to the cause and all those kinds of things. And people ask me all the time, they're like, how do you do it all? I mean, I have a radio show, I have a blog, I used to have a cooking show. My cancer coaching business has exploded over the past year, and I had to actually lose my cooking show, which was very hard. But anyway, now I just teach cancer cooking school for my clients. But I had a cooking show, you know, I was coaching people with cancer, and they're like, how do you, you know, and you have to find, you know, you have to enroll people, like you can't have a business model without having clients. And so, you know, where do you find the clients and how do you get all that? How do you do all that? And I'm like, when it's your passion when it's something that you know that you're supposed to be doing, it's amazing the things that you do in such a short period of time. I don't work myself to death. I take vacations. I take time off. It's, but I have a thriving business. So if you are like, I don't know if I can do all this, just know that you can. You have every tool inside of you to do this. And I think
we're really trying to support the coaches too. I mean, we're doing everything we can. Yeah. We want them to know that we're here for you. And that's why anyone can do a podcast. We want people to know we have the most amazing coaches right now, from the most varied backgrounds that are the most wonderful people.
Yep.
I've gotten to know a lot of the coaches, and I'm just very proud of everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we have such a nice little community too that we, I had a question the other day. I was like, hey, I don't know the answer to this. Can somebody help me? And then right on it, they're like, oh yeah, here, this is, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And
I love that everyone's networking now. Yeah, on the coaches' Facebook pages. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What a great resource, because we're together, we're stronger.
There's plenty of room for many of us.
Yes.
Many of us to do
absolutely.
There's half the population is going to have cancer by 2020. Then there needs to be more of us. Like, and I think that's the other thing. People are like, oh, there's just so many already. No, this is a wide open market. If this is your passion, and you don't have to be, you just need to speak from the heart. I think that people resonate. I mean, I know a lot about cancer, but I think the thing that resonates with most people is that I just truly speak to them from my heart and encourage them and believe in them where nobody else is believing in them. Not their doctors, sometimes not even their family. Like, nobody's believing in them, but truly being present and believing that they can beat this and helping them understand that you can beat this. And people ask me all the time, well, what happens if they don't? Then I have to tell you, they lived a beautiful life leading to that point. Mm-hmm. They knew that they were still the boss of that cancer, and it wasn't bossing them around. Right. And, it's, so far I haven't had anybody not beat it. But that's a bold statement, but I mean,
I love it.
Yeah. My clients, they are surviving cancer. And I'm super proud of them. We don't measure success in my business. We don't measure success by not having cancer. We manage success by, cancer inactive, even if it's still present, inactive, reversal, gone completely. Those are all things that are amazing. And then also not just beating people up for choosing a path of, medical. And there's a lot of people out there that are like beating people up for, choosing a medical path. I'm like, that's not helpful. It's more helpful to stand with them and support them and show them how, and some people change their mind in the middle of treatment. They're like, I don't think I can do this.
Well, sure. Because we're always learning. Yep. And then you get feedback from your treatment, and hey, you can change your mind at any time.
Absolutely. Because you're the boss.
Because, right. And you're checking in with yourself. Like, so you're teaching people to connect with themselves. Absolutely. And to trust their intuition and educating at the same time. Giving tools. Sure. So that's a wonderful thing. Do you have maybe, I always like to give people like a nice hope story. Do you have anybody that stands out that maybe you can share?
Man, I have tons of people that I can refer to, but I'm going to use like one of my most recent. So I'm just going to tell one short story because it's hilarious, and then like super inspiring story. I have a client. Her name is Nancy. In fact, I refer to her in my free training that I do. I have a free workshop that's online. It's like 45 minutes long. People can go and watch. And it's about the 5 principles that my clients use to basically ignite healing in their body. And one of my clients, Nancy, she was slightly overweight, and she wanted to lose some weight, but she was going in for radiation. She had breast cancer, and she was going in for radiation. And we had really started working before surgery even to fortify her body so that she'd be nice and strong through surgery, so that she would heal really quickly and could get on with this radiation thing. So sure enough, like within 2 weeks, she was ready. Usually it's 4 weeks. She was ready for radiation. And she had lost some weight. And so between her surgery and the radiation, she had lost like 6 pounds, I think. It wasn't a lot. It was just some, and her radiation oncologist was like, Nancy, I really, I'm concerned about the weight loss. And she's like, I'm trying to lose weight. And she's like, and her radiation, she was like, you're trying to lose weight. And she said, no, I have changed my entire eating behavior and the weight is just kind of coming off of me. And she said, and I'm so happy. And she said, and here you are telling me it's bad. And she said, but if you prefer, I can go back to the drive-through eating and, you know, the fast food and all the junk food I was eating. I can go back to that. And she said her radiation oncologist just smiled at her and said, I'll just make a note in your chart that you're trying to lose weight. I was like, so that's one cancer boss. Another cancer boss, her name is Amy. Amy has my program is called Any Stage Cancer Nutrition Protocol, and meaning any stage of cancer, any stage of treatment. It doesn't matter. You can come to me at any point, and you don't have to come to me before treatment. You can come during, whatever, after. Amy came to me, and she had a very aggressive form of cancer, skin cancer called Merkel cell cancer. And it reproduces right underneath the epidermal layer, and the tumors are very aggressive. And they can be life-threatening, of course. But before she came to me, she had a softball-sized tumor on the back of her back, right between her shoulder blades. And they could actually safely remove that surgically. And so most Merkel cells are removed surgically, and then, usually within a year or two, they'll like pop up somewhere else. And then before it gets large, you do something about it. And so it's actually a very manageable cancer. The 5-year survival rate is pretty good as long as it doesn't have distant metastasis. And so, but when Amy came to me, she had one growing in her armpit. And so Amy's small. She's a tiny woman. She's like 5'3", like 110 pounds. She's tiny. And she couldn't lower her arm because the tumor was so large, and it had gotten to about a large grapefruit. So if you'll imagine, like this big, and it was pressing. Of course, we have so many nerve endings in our armpit, and it was pressing on. It was making her lower back hurt, her shoulder. Of course, she was numb into her hand, and it was very, very painful because of the nerve damage that it was creating in her armpit. And when Amy came to me, she said, I want to fight this naturally. And I said, please forgive me in this story, and I said, okay, so let's talk about what to do. So we started doing some things, and she started feeling better. And but the tumor was still growing, but she physically was feeling better. And she's like, I feel better. And it's so stupid because if it wasn't for this tumor in my armpit, then I would feel great. And I'm like, I know. And so then she had one pop out in her abdomen and one on her lower back. So then she has 3 that she's dealing with. And I said, and I was very bold with her. And I said, Amy, the things that we are doing right now, this cancer is really aggressive. And so what have your medical doctors told you? Which we had been discussing, and I knew the answer to this. And she said, well, they want me to do radiation, but I don't want to do it. I said, why don't you want to do it? So we talked about all the fear factors that happened, through the idea about what radiation means to her. And a week later, I set her off on some mindset tasks. One of them is a meditation about understanding cancer treatments and what they are designed for in our body, and that the fact that most people want you to think that they are, and they can be deadly, but so can cancer. And her cancer was going to be deadly if she did not do something about it. And so, so she came back to me, and she said a week later, and she's like, okay, I did all the mindset work. And she actually turned in like homework to me, and I was reading through it, and she was dead quiet. And I said, all right, well, this looks great. So how are you feeling? She's like, my first radiation starts on Monday. And I was like, really? And so I was so proud of her for being a boss, because she had eliminated, in a very short period of time, she eliminated the fear that was surrounding that radiation to have this done. And she needed it to save her life. And so she has been through, I think now, let's see, what week are we in? So she's had it's between 18 and 20 treatments of this conversation, and gone from a grapefruit down to smaller than a golf ball in her armpit. And she can lower her arm, and she feels great. And she's like, my goodness, what have I done? What have I been doing? So the ones in her pelvis and the one in her back are completely gone. They're non-existent. And she has not had any burning. Her skin is a little red and a little bit flaky in the area that they're radiating, but they keep having to, because it's shrinking. And our doctor's like this. He's like, I see Merkel cell respond to radiation, but not like this. What are you doing? And Amy's like, well, I'm working with a coach, and I have the mindset that this is going to work, and it's working. And I'm not going to accept, the only thing I'm going to accept is victory at this point. And he's like, okay, well, plus all the nutrition, plus, and so here's Amy. Thanksgiving, she could hardly get out of bed. Christmas, she made Christmas dinner. So 4 weeks of a time frame, and she's gone from being completely incapacitated to, like living through this in a way that has been unbelievable. So I just actually spoke to her on Friday, and she's like, just, she's just, it's completely, so the power there does not lie within the radiation treatment. Right. That is a tool in the toolbox. The power there lies within the mindset of what this treatment could do for her, and ditching the fear that she had around that. Now, I am not a huge fan of radiation. I had it personally. I never recommend it for like breast cancer or anything like this, but what I know about Merkel cell will tell me that radiation is a very effective, minimally invasive. We can help her body heal from radiation, and it will save her life. And so, and sure enough, here we are with, this amazing evidence that, yeah. And so there you go. So it's pretty powerful to ignite somebody's healing abilities. And that comes in many fashions. That comes in many forms of ideas. And I firmly believe that Amy will be cancer-free. Once we get her body out of emergency mode, we can start working on fortifying her body so that the cancer does not return. And, and making it
not a hospitable environment anymore. It's just,
that's right. Yeah.
It doesn't live here anymore.
Yeah, to the cancer. So yes, and it's been amazing watching her. That's my most recent. That's like going on. That's like happening as we speak. But I could literally tell you hundreds of stories just like that, where people had a stage 4 diagnosis. You're never, we're going to do treatments. The treatments will not reverse your cancer. It'll just keep you from dying, essentially. And then at the end of treatments, they have no cancer. They're totally in remission. And just that empowerment of watching that happen like over and over and over again, I can confidently say to the next person, there's not a cancer on the planet that intimidates me. Like, I don't have one client that comes to me and I'm like, really? Oh boy, like in the back of my mind, I'm going, oh, this is going to be hard.
Well, that's wonderful, because then you really believe what you're doing, and you believe.
And I know.
Right. So, and they feel that from you, and then that transfers to them, and now their hope and their trust in themselves. That's really amazing. I'm curious, were you in a different line of work before?
So I know, really funny as well. I have spent my entire life, well, not my entire life, actually. The first part of my career, I was a marketing executive in charge of customer relationship management for large corporations, mostly retail. And I was a consultant. So I was all over the country working with major retailers, helping them form a communication, if you will.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes. And so that was my first life. We moved to Colorado about 20 years ago. When we moved here, I always thought I would go back to work, but I ended up never going back to work, and kind of like retired, but not, because my husband and I opened, my husband's a clock repairman. And so I was like, it'd be really fun if you did clock repair and we had an antique store, and then we could travel the world and buy antiques and bring them back here. And he's like, I think that's a great frame of mind. And so, so we did that for like 15 years. And then in my very perfect life, and I'm not kidding when I say that, in my very, very perfect life, cancer reared its head and said, and I truly believe that I was blessed with my cancer, that my cancer was the ultimate blessing and wake-up call in my life. And not for my own personal health, but for the fact that I had something, I had a higher calling that needed to be satisfied. And cancer gave me that gift. And, I used to say, that my little tumor, my little breast cancer, because it was early stage, thankfully not, it probably would have killed me, but it was early stage, but that little lump in my breast saved my life. And one of my clients said the other day, she said, that little lump in your breast is going to save millions of people's lives. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Very powerful. Very powerful.
Yeah. So and it's that mindset that I utilize with my clients. What is cancer here to teach you? You know, it's not just about healing cancer. It's about knowing your purpose on the other side of cancer and what you were put here to do.
Right. It's checking your lifestyle, your relationships, everything that's going on in your life that's affecting you in every way. And it's an opportunity, right, to
It's an opportunity.
to move into your perfect life. And you found that. So yeah, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
That is.
Listen to the stories that cancer has to tell you. It will change your life in a way that you could never in a million years imagine. I mean, a girl that eats 5 vegetables is going to be a food blogger. That's that's dyslexic. I'm incredibly, almost debilitating dyslexic, and I'm a writer. I just finished up a blog post for a ghostwrite that I just did for a publication. And and I'm a writer. It just makes a girl that every time you turned on a camera, like for a still photo or video, went, because she hated the camera, has it's totally transformed me, but only because I allowed it to happen. Because I stepped up and said, this is not going to boss me around. I'm going to be the boss. And that notion empowered me in every part of my life.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, this has been very inspirational for anybody with a cancer diagnosis, for anybody thinking about getting into coaching, for anybody that maybe needs to make changes in their life in a preventative way, because we can sure catch cancer before it even starts. It's about 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for your absolutely amazing energy, because it really comes through in speaking to you. And, it's just wonderful that you really believe in what you're doing, and that, you're helping people, and other people can benefit from this podcast and in many different ways. So thank you so much.
Thanks for asking me.
Tell us where we can find you.
Yes. So my website is go2kitchens.com, GO2 kitchens.com. Although if you put in TO or TOO or any variation of that, you're going to come to me. So yes. So if you're fighting active cancer right now, I only work with people who are actually in an active cancer diagnosis right now. If you have that, I highly encourage you to watch the 45-minute webinar. I have people email me every single day that said that changed my perspective about how I think about cancer. At the end of that, there is an opportunity to talk to me. I do 45 minutes free consultations with every single person that wants to do them. And then if we are a good match, then we talk about what it is that you need to do to enroll in the program. If we're not a good match, I'm going to send you some resources. And either way, you're going to leave that conversation with something to move forward with.
Right.
And so that's the offers at the end of that webinar. And then all social media at Go2Kitchens. And then also brand new, we just started a Facebook page just a couple of weeks ago for Any Stage, which is, you'll find it Any Stage Nutrition Protocol on Facebook. And so that's actually a new thriving page that we're super excited about. In fact, Facebook just approached us, and we're so small, approached us about being featured. They really liked what we were doing. So that was really cool. And then one last thing, there is a private group on Facebook called Real Answers About Your Cancer, where I do live trainings 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Thursday nights. Okay, and then one last thing, seriously, I do all of these things. The one last thing is on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m., I do have a radio show on 1310 KFKA here in Northern Colorado, but you can go to 1310kfka.com, and the show is called Fork It Over Radio, and that's 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and that's a show I do with my husband. And we talk about all kinds of health topics. We've had big interviews, Dr. Mark Hyman, JJ Virgin, Dan Buettner, JP Sears. I mean, we got some pretty big wellness stuff. Yeah. So those are, we just had Dr. Christine Kasmar, the digestion doc, this past weekend, and she was amazing. So yes. And then we're working on a calendar of events because I have several speaking events coming up this year. And we're working on a calendar of events so you can see those. And if I'm in your city and you want to come to the event, you know how to do all of that. So
great.
So there you go.
Wonderful.
It made me tired saying all that.
I love it. I love it. Great work, Leslie. It's been such a joy speaking with you. And thank you again for all your kind words about Beat Cancer. And we're so happy that we could help you on your journey.
You guys gave me a huge stepping stone into a life that, again, that I could have only ever dreamed of. So thank you for that.
That's amazing.
It's been invaluable. So
great.
All right.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on Facebook.
Yeah, see you guys on Facebook. Say hi.
I always do.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.